Today we're creating an audio-reactive visualizer inspired by Stranger Things. With Visibox 5.0, we've introduced a new feature called visualizers. Visualizers are generative, audio-reactive, shader-based, kinds of GPU-based visualizers. They are things that trip out and can react to music. When you play the music, they will jump in. Not all of them are audio reactive, but if we jump through a bunch of the presets here, you can see we've got all different kinds of stuff that we've created and put in here. But perhaps the most important thing is that you can actually create your own. And I'm going to show you how to do that. We have two different types of visualizers that we support currently. One is MilkDrop, which is an old format that was created originally for Winamp in the early aughts, and it comes with lots and lots of different sliders and values that you can enter in, and it's actually relatively cumbersome to create, but there's a huge library of these out on the internet, and you can basically just take a .milk file and drag it into this window in Visibox, and you'll have you'll be able to use those files in your projects. But the newer format is called ISF, and it was developed by the good people that produce the VDMX VJ software, and they were lovely enough to open up the format, and we support that as well. And those are sort of more conventional shaders where you've got basically one file. I'll make this smaller so you can see the file. One file that is the shaders that generate the visualizer. However, you can also have sort of variable values in them, things that you can tweak, and we support that as well. Yeah, and a lot of this stuff is technical. You can find information out about it on the internet. I think that we even have a link either here or maybe it's in the manual, where you can look into these formats and how to create them yourself. But they're pretty difficult. We've tried to keep Visibox super simple and not too code heavy in the past. But with these features, we're starting to add code. However, you can use an AI agent, an AI assistant, to edit and create these for yourself. And so that's what I'm going to do today, to show you how to create a no-code shader for Visibox, inspired by the opening theme from Stranger Things. So let's start by going into ChatGPT. In the last video, I did this using Claude Desktop to show you that you could do that. ChatGPT, all of these tools are changing very, very rapidly. But with this one, I'm going to use ChatGPT, obviously another popular AI assistant. They've just come out with this. They're sort of combining what used to be Codex and what used to be the standalone ChatGPT apps, and they're kind of combining them. They're competing with Claude's Co-work product with ChatGPT work. But the nice thing about this is that when you download this sort of combined ChatGPT app, you might need to download Codex. You might need to just download the regular ChatGPT app. But like I said, they're moving together. And more importantly, this ChatGPT work tool supports MCPs, which is what Visibox uses, as its sort of assistant to the AI assistant. And you can think of it as sort of a built-in manual and interface for that explains to, in this case, ChatGPT, how to interact with Visibox. So we can just simply start here by saying, are you able to connect to Visibox? That's a good way to go to make sure that Visibox's stuff is installed correctly. To install that stuff in Visibox, I forgot to mention this, you go into the settings and say connect to AI tools, and then it will pop up to confirm. I've already done that, but can't hurt to do it again. And so we ask here, are you able to connect to Visibox? And it checks to see if Visibox is one of the tools connected. Again, this is an MCP, which provides context. Basically, it explains to the tool that's connecting to it how to, it even knows the volume level that Visibox is at right now. And it's not full screen. That is all true. I should mention that in addition to creating content for Visibox in this way, you can also control Visibox. You could set the volume with it. You could set it to full screen. And you could trigger clips with it and all sorts of stuff. So basically, most of the things that you can do as a user, you can do with the AI, which is kind of fun if you're into AI. I totally get it that some people and creative people in particular are not, but I just wanted to show you this as an option. You're welcome to create shaders yourself, and it's great if you've got that skill. But if you don't have that skill and you still have the vision for something you want to do, let's continue to show you what you can do here. So I'm just going to talk to ChatGPT here. I'm going to hit the microphone, and we can do this whole thing. So, but what I want to do first is start by creating the prompt. Instead of just creating the prompt myself, I want to create the prompt that ChatGPT can use to basically sort of prompt itself. So let's see. So I'm really inspired by the opening visual theme from the TV show Stranger Things. And I want to create a visualizer based on that. But first, I want you to give me a description of the opening theme to Stranger Things as you understand it, so that we can kind of agree on what the visualizer should do and what it should be, and how it should work. I'm going to jump through some of the waiting parts of this in this video. Just be aware of that as we go. Slow, ominous assembly of something too large and too close to fully understand. The screen begins in near total blackness. Thin red-orange lines emerge, glowing at the edges of enormous letter forms seen to extreme magnification. Camera drifts across them. A nearly black background with deep crimson red, large outline typography, rather than solid letters. Solid optical bloom, slight blur. Translate that into dark typographic environment. Rather than simply reproducing the show's title, glowing red segments could drift through deep space, appearing abstract at first and occasionally assembling into a custom word, simple or geometric composition. Oh, it's even suggested some audio-reactive behavior here. Base controls the glow's intensity and subtle forward camera push. Mid-range controls the movement and alignment of fragments. High frequencies create edge flicker, grain, sparks, and chromatic separation. Strong beats. Yep, yep. The key is restraint. This is great. Um, I love this. One of the things I really like about the theme is the graininess and the glowiness. I don't think we actually need to put actual words in. I think we can use lines and shapes instead to kind of imply that. But I do like um, the red and ember orange light and the black background. It would be great if we could also control the background and foreground colors so that we could make variations of this with a, I don't know, blue foreground or something like that. But I like the zooms. I like the layered things. Maybe we could sort of have it continue just sort of introducing lines as if they were parts of the words. But use also some shapes, I don't know, triangles, squares, rectangles, kinds of things instead of the actual word forms, so that it's more generalized and more usable in more contexts. But I really like the layered things and the way things could kind of zoom in constantly over time. If we continue to introduce layers and sort of, introducing layers, I guess is what I want. All right, we'll send that. The visualizer begins in a configurable background color, black by default. Far ahead, thin lines, outlined shapes appear. Line segments, partial triangles, corners, arcs. They reassemble fragments. Yep. The camera continuously advances through them. Oh, I love that. As the layer grows, passes beyond the frame, another layer emerges from the background behind it. Yes. This creates seamless. Yep. Several layers would remain visible simultaneously at different depths. Some shapes could be crisp. This is great. It seems to really be getting it. Audio should influence the atmosphere. I'd call the concept Ember geometry. Sure. Yeah. Let me give it a little more feedback and then we can jump in. This is great. Just make sure that there's always some shapes or something on the screen at any given time. It's probably better to do more than less, to opt for more, and maybe even the number of shapes or something like that is configurable so that people could kind of choose the density, this sort of Z, on the Z axis, they could kind of choose the density as things are coming at them. It's also important that things are kind of going off the edge of the screen. So remember that, we're kind of moving through these things and we want them to extend off the edge, and not all be constrained into the space of the visualizer. All right. Visualizer will maintain continuously populated depth field. Low density. Never allow an empty frame. Yeah, I think this is great. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. So we've got the soul model here, and I'm going to increase it to a more advanced, smarter. So that was nice and fast. The responses were coming back relatively quickly, but I'm going to advance it to the higher level of thinking, because we're going to do some coding now. And so let me talk back to it again. This is great. I think we've got a plan. Let's actually implement it now and create a new Visibox visualizer preset that does this. Let's use the ISF format, just because I think that's going to give us more control in this context. And yeah, build the preset. So now it's doing more thinking. This is good. So now ChatGPT is talking to Visibox. They're talking back and forth, and it's finding out all the formats and formatting and how it needs to create this preset. And it has control, so it can go in and manipulate the settings in Visibox to create the preset. So it says it created it. It says it worked for about 2 minutes. And let's switch back over to Visibox and see what we've got. So it's in my visualizers. Ember geometry is here. Let's see what it did. Kind of looks like it didn't work. Yeah. Well, let's go back and to fix it. That didn't seem to work. I'm just seeing a black screen, and not seeing the visualizer at all. So I don't know if it failed in one way or another, but double check that the syntax is correct and fix whatever might be wrong with it. So we do have a shader here. It's doing something. Set up the inputs. There is an error. These side by side so I can kind of read from one into the other. I am seeing a tab here that says error. And it says fragment shader compilation failed, error 0232 active illegal use of reserved word, syntax error. See if you can fix that. I don't know what you're doing. Ah! There we go. Oh, man, this is great. No error. Oh, look at it. This is awesome. It's very strange things. All right, let's get some music going and see if it's how it's audio reactive. Woo! That's very audio reactive. Turn down the audio reactivity. Just the line thickness and the graininess, how grainy it is, how glowy it is. And adjust the zoom speed. The problem is that it's right now it's the zoom speed's sort of affected because the you know what? Rather than telling you this, I'm going to tell this to ChatGPT. So the audio reactivity is a little weird and should be kind of more subtle. Right now, the audio reactivity, we've got this, we're kind of moving forward in space through this, but the audio is kind of reversing that motion and kind of moving us backwards in space. And it's kind of making it feel like, I don't know, it's not really progressing. So let's change that aspect of the audio reactivity. And in general, just having it glow from audio reactivity would be great, or maybe we could add some more settings around that, rather than particularly the motion, the forward motion. We don't want to mess with that too much from the audio reactivity. We'll send that, and we'll continue playing with it while that information is being processed. Looks like we can change the colors here too. Oh, wow, yeah, multicolor. Oh, it's great. I like it. I just am not nuts about the audio reactivity of it right now. I'll revert back while it makes its changes. All right, so in 1 minute and 16 seconds, ChatGPT has updated our visualizer, and it's certainly more subtle. I could probably continue tweaking this for a long time, but I'll sort of wrap things up here. Let's bring this into our project. So I can do that just by dragging it into a song here in our project. Run this at full screen. So there you go. We've created a Stranger Things inspired visualizer in Visibox using ChatGPT and the Visibox 5 MCP and visualizers functionality. You can find out more information about Visibox at spaceage.tv. You can download a free 14-day trial and try this out for yourself. And if you like what it's doing and would like to use it for your shows or whatever you're doing, we would love if you became a Visibox subscriber. All of that at spaceage.tv. Thanks. We'll see you on the next video.